Hello, my name is Andrew O. Jackson. I am creating this video series titled The Personal Power of Chi, A Revolution in Sports Psychology, with the intent that athletes of all levels and abilities, and no matter what their sport, can understand, access, and actualize their evolutionary self of strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, cunning, and success. Chapter 3, Cognitive Emotional Reprocessing Dynamics, is about reorganizing, restructuring, and redeveloping disempowering emotionally negative, bad feeling cognitions into empowering, emotionally positive, good feeling cognitive activities that correlate with health, well being, effective and successful decision making prowess, and their actualization. An athlete and team's performance in competition is dependent on their skills, abilities, and understandings to reprocess disempowering, bad feeling, emotionally negative cognitions into empowering, successful, and good feeling, emotionally positive cognitions. These skills, abilities, and understandings are critical for a superior world-class performance, especially during the heat of competition. Before we begin, I want to reiterate that the terms cognitive and cognition refer to activities and processes of awareness and knowing of the mind, such as perceiving, conceiving, remembering, reasoning, judging, imagining, and problem solving, where understanding and comprehension of thoughts, ideas, and beliefs can project future consequences and events. I also want to state that I group emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings together because they either feel good as an evolved indicator of a healthy biochemical and neurological physiology or feel bad as an evolved indicator of an unhealthy biochemical and neurological physiology. Does a coach or an athlete have the cognitive emotional awareness to understand that bad feeling emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings are evolutionary indicators of a disempowering, disabling, and ineffective neurological and biochemical physiology? And then does the coach or athlete have the capacity to reprocess their disempowering, emotionally negative cognitions, especially during the heat of competition on the field of play, into empowering, emotionally positive cognitions that correlate with a healthy biochemical and neurological physiology that precipitates the strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, cunning, and success, and the actualization of a superior world-class performance? We all have been taught what a mountain is, and because of this, we have a common belief that the mountain exists independent of our observation of it. But the mountain exists as it does because we have been taught to believe it so. The mountain range I'm going to talk about is about our uniquely human evolved cognitive emotional reprocessing dynamics. No one would leave their hand on a hot stove to burn and become disabled. We have an evolved sensory system of pain that brings to consciousness awareness the impending damage and destruction. The same goes for emotional pain. Negative, bad feeling emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings have an evolved correlation with the negation of health, well-being, and effective and successful decision-making prowess and their actualization. Yet every year, thousands and thousands of people, including athletes of all levels and abilities, leave their minds on the hot stove to where the pain becomes so unbearable they kill themselves for relief. That is the mountain that exists today, and that mountain must change. Understanding the power of emotions to guide cognitive activities off the hot stove is vital for every athlete to successfully compete, no matter what their sport and what their position is in that sport. Not until emotions are understood will their true power be revealed. Good feeling emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings have an evolved positive correlation with health, well-being, and effective decision-making prowess and their actualization. An athlete's neurological, biochemical, and physiological strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, cunning, and success has a positive and evolved correlation with feeling good, emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings. Negative, bad feeling, emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings have an evolved correlation with the lack of health, well-being, and effective and successful decision-making prowess and their actualization. An athlete's abilities and performance in a competition are directly dependent on their ability to reprocess, restructure, and redevelop bad feeling, emotionally negative cognitions into good feeling, emotional positive cognitions. When an athlete takes the time and effort to emotionally feel good, they are allowing a synergistic harmony of the mind, body, and consciousness that then has the capacity to respond to the demands needed for those extraordinary performances required in competition. If we restructure the ideas that do exist in traditional psychology, we have the human function of cognitive emotional reprocessing to find a better feeling thought that correlates with health, well-being, success, and empowerment. If we start at 1 on the left side, an external or internal object of attention stimulates 2 cognitive activities of awareness and knowing, which precipitate 3 physiological changes and states in the brain and body. That 4, if perceived as negative, bad feeling, and disempowering emotions, moods, attitudes, or feelings, we begin a reprocessing procedure at 5, where our object of attention is our negative feeling emotions. At 6, we use this awareness to reprocess and restructure cognitive activities to precipitate 7 new, healthy, and empowered physiological changes and states of being in the brain and body that 8 drive behavior and 9 are perceived as good feeling emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings. Good and effective decisions and their actualization cannot be made in a vortex of negative emotions. An athlete's physical capacity to perform diminishes the more they ignore their cognitive, emotional, negative state of being. Negative, bad feeling emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings have an evolved correlation with the lack of health, well-being, and effective and successful decision-making prowess, and the lack of ability to perform in competition. To recreate the cognitive emotional state of being of one's past best performance is one step closer to creating now a new best performance. Everyone has had a time and place where they have had an outstanding performance in their sport, and hopefully they have had many such instances where they felt the energy and excitement of excellence. If not, use the excellence of another to recreate these cognitive emotional feelings. This exercise aims to re-engage those emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings of success into one cognitive emotional event now as preparation for competition. Hopefully, a cognitive emotional recreation of past brilliant and amazing performances will eventually become, in some form or fashion, an integral part of an athlete's everyday life. Until then, it may be necessary to rehearse and practice reenactments in a quiet setting where an athlete can take the time to recall and note any circumstances, events, and behaviors that they cognitively and emotionally experienced before, during, and after a moment of brilliance. The principles of cognitive emotional reprocessing dynamics are: 1, cognition precipitates the changes and states of neurological, biochemical, and physiological being in the brain and body that are perceived as emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings. 2, good feeling emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings have an evolved correlation with health, well-being, and effective decision-making prowess and their actualization. 3, a person's health, well-being, and effective and successful decision-making prowess and their actualization is dependent on their skills, tools, and understandings to reprocess, restructure, and reorganize cognitions into a better feeling and empowering emotional mood, attitude, or feeling. 4, the intent and purpose of psychological and pharmaceutical therapies is to augment and to reestablish a person's natural and evolved cognitive emotional reprocessing skills, tools, and understandings. And 5, the skills, tools, and understandings of cognitive emotional reprocessing for health, well-being, and effective decision-making must be part of education, social service, mental health, and criminal justice reform. We no longer live in a cognitive world or an emotional world, but a cognitive emotional world of reprocessing cognitive activities guided by emotional awareness. To have the physiological capacity for situational awareness, comprehension, and response, that is, to have the neurological and biochemical physiology demanded by a world-class performance, emotions, moods, attitudes, and feelings must be in a feeling good state of being. Every subject is a two-ended stick. One end is that which you do not want and feels bad, and the other end is that which you do want and feels good. The feeling bad end is disempowerment. The feeling good end is empowerment. The purpose of reprocessing, restructuring, and reorganizing cognitive activities is to grab the empowered, feeling good end of the stick. Just understanding that negative, bad feeling emotions means you are dwelling upon something you do not like or want in your life is a very good start. Bobby Knight was Indiana's basketball coach of 11 big titles and 3 national championships. When the craze was, quote, the power of positive thinking, he wrote a book called, quote, The Power of Negative Thinking. His point was that there's power grabbing the disempowering, bad feeling end of the stick and in knowing what you do not want. Once that is identified, you can strategically use that information to formulate an offensive and defensive coaching strategy you do want. Your work now is to grab the good feeling and empowered end of the stick. Cognitive emotional reprocessing means get your hand off the hot stove. Stop dwelling upon that which you do not like, want, or intend. Your work, your pumping iron, is to reprocess your cognitive activities. Change your thoughts, beliefs, perceptions. That is, change what you are looking at or listening to. Change your reasonings and logic. Change or restructure your dreams and imagination. The idea is to accentuate the emotionally positive and negate the emotionally negative. If you break your leg or arm, there's nothing wrong with going to a doctor and having it taken care of. And more than likely, there's going to be physical therapy afterwards. If you cannot get into a healthy and empowered, good feeling place on your own, you may need some, quote, physical therapy for the mind. Here's a list of formalized cognitive emotional reprocessing techniques that are professionally available. If you need to go this route, I suggest you look these processes up on Wikipedia to see which ones may appeal to you. Remember what physical therapy for the mind is. 1, being aware and mindful of cognitive, emotional, and physiology correlations of the mind, heart, and body. 2, realizing what you do not want is a feeling bad, disempowering physiology. And that your work is to find a better feeling thought that correlates with a feeling good and empowering physiology. 4, if your mind just will not get off the hot stove, take a break. Distract yourself. Go to the movies, take a hike, do something physical, read a book. but be wary of addictive, distracting activities such as comfort eating, alcohol, drugs, and even exercising and other, quote, positive activities that become an addiction rather than a temporary distraction. 5, remember your work is to reprocess your cognitive activities that precipitate the feeling bad, unhealthy, and disempowering neurological and biochemical physiology. 6, the objective of formal psychological and pharmaceutical therapy is to reestablish and redevelop an athlete's cognitive emotional reprocessing skills, tools, and understandings. Without an accompanying text or explanation of cognitive emotional reprocessing behaviors, preschool and primary school language and literary educators are indoctrinating their students with an erroneous psychological linguistics of emotional-driven behavior and control and sabotaging their students' future. These same teachers can augment their students' emotional awareness and understanding with readily available, age-appropriate, cognitive emotional reprocessing content. Karim Barash-Fieldman and Rebecca Camizio have developed a wonderful textbook called, well, The Resilience Workbook for Kids, 32 Skills to Build I Can Do It Muscles. I have written 2 books on this subject, Cognitive Emotional Health Education, a Primary and Secondary School Overview, and The Personal Power of Chi, an athlete's heritage of strength, speed, stamina, agility, reflexes, cunning, and success. My publications are freely available as downloadable PDFs from my websites, symbioticpsychology.com and emotionalevolution.com, emotional-evolution.com. Cognitive emotional reprocessing health education is a must in education, social services, mental health, and criminal justice reform. Why are gun manufacturers being held accountable for society's lack of cognitive emotional reprocessing education that is necessary for individual health, well-being, and successful and effective decision-making and their actualization? It is time that we evolve out of our old world of literary and linguistic shortcut of emotional-driven behavior and control found in current literature, sociology, philosophy, religion, law, criminal justice, psychology, psychiatry, medicine, and education. We are now in a new world where success in sports competition and in life demand an evolved cognitive emotional reprocessing dynamics where emotions are used to guide cognitive behavior to a better feeling, healthier, and more effective state of being. Teamwork is about trust. Everybody has a job to be mindful of their own cognitive emotional vortex so they can have the situational awareness to do their job and act appropriately, effectively, and successfully. Each person has a responsibility to reprocess their own cognitive emotional behavior into an empowering, healthy, more competitive, and better feeling place. As in sailing and in life, the opportunity is there to enjoy. It is our responsibility to make it so. Success depends on it. Effective and successful decisions will not be actuated in a vortex of negativity. Enjoying life is necessary for physical health. Enjoying life is necessary for mental well-being. Enjoying life is necessary for an effective and successful decision-making. Enjoying life is necessary for the actualization of that which is wanted, desired, and intended. If an athlete or coach wants, desires, and intends to succeed in sports competition and to have a world-class performance, they must enjoy themselves, for within their joy lies the empowered, good-feeling neurological and biochemical physiology of the brain and body that is necessary to support and maintain a world-class performance. Because joy has evolved correlation with health, well-being, and success, We have evolved to be joyous beings. We do not have a cognitive world and a separate emotional world because emotions are a function of cognition. Cognition precipitates the changes in states of biochemical, neurological, and physiological being that is perceived as emotions. Hopefully, this lecture presentation has brought you to another worldview of cognitive emotional reprocessing. Empowering and good feeling emotion, moods, attitudes, and feelings have an evolved positive correlation with health, well-being, and successful decision-making prowess and their actualization. Ancient Greek philosophers and today's academic dissertations of emotional suffering, slavery, and vulnerability exist only when cognitively dwelling upon the lack or absence of that which is wanted, desired, or intended. When these emotionally negative cognitive activities are reprocessed, restructured, and redeveloped into emotionally positive cognitions, a being of emotional suffering, slavery, and vulnerability is transformed, transmuted, and renovated into a being of joy, freedom, and power, with the imaginative, artistic, and creative mind necessary to fashion and manifest their wanted, desired, and intended world, reality, truth, and favored fortune. When joy and good feeling permeate your life, practice, and competition, good things happen. I wish you all a successful and joyous life. It is all there for you to enjoy and to make whatever you desire, want, and intend. Namaste.